Can you deep down a bit about one of your dangerous situation as a skier?
Hello, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. That's one. I was very young when I started skiing in Lebanon. I started skiing, I was 3 years old. And then growing up, I went into more professionalism into skiing. I went into races and stuff like that. But as I started very young, the people I used to train with were much older than me. So I always wanted to compete with them and stuff like that. So it was a bit tough from different ways. But ski, in some way, is a dangerous sport. It's an extreme sport, as everyone calls it. Like going skiing, like sometimes skiing on a slope is really calm and cool, but when you start going into races and then going into different types of skiing, when you go with high speeds, sometimes you go like on your skis more than 100 kilometers per hour. So here it's kind of scary. And then here you have to be like very, very focused on where you're going because the moment you look or like you lose focus for like 1 millisecond, you might crash, and then a crash might be like very dangerous, honestly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you had ever any situation where you like had a crash?
It was like uh, once before going into one of the biggest competitions in Lebanon. I was training once before, like the day before. I was doing my training sessions, and then like at the end of the day, I was training in some slope where everyone can ski there. So I was doing my turns and stuff like that, and then a beginner snowboarder just comes and hits me in my here, what do you call it, in my ribs, and I
Yeah.
broke two ribs, and then
Mm.
yeah, and there are lots of injuries that you might get. Like I have lots of broken fingers, knee injuries a lot, but if you like the sport, you're gonna go no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it like for you when you say you had a lot of injuries coming back from the injuries? Which kind of mental challenges you had to overcome?
Like, if you don't really believe in your body, in your ability of skiing, it's gonna be very hard, honestly. Because like there's one thing I always say, if you are negative in the mind, you're only gonna see obstacles. So let's say you're skiing in between trees or stuff like that. If you focus on the tree, the only thing you're gonna hit is the tree. But you have to always remind yourself to breathe and look at like the route you have to take to be able to continue. So it's always tough, but in Lebanon, it was kind of easier because our season is not that long. It's like 3 months of trainings. So the trainings we do after this is kind of different, like mountain biking and rollers, plyometrics, running, and stuff like that, hikings. So you get a bit of change in your mind. So I had some time to recover from my injuries before going back into the ski season, you know?
Mm, understand. And afterwards, you progress also as a ski coach.
Yeah.
Which of the biggest lesson you learned by yourself and are giving then to your,
Yeah.
yeah, skier?
So, me growing up into the ski area, my coach was very strict, very tough. It was like military, And then like it was very hard not to think negative. Like every time you do a mistake, you're like, "Oh, bro, that guy is gonna kick me out of the program and stuff like that." But then when I grew up, I was around 17, 18 years old. I started doing my licenses and certificates so that I can be a ski coach. And then learning from being an athlete, I understand how athletes think. And then like you have to be supportive. Sometimes you have to be a bit tough on the kids because, as I told you, it's an extreme sport. So if you let a kid do something without thinking, it's not like playing football, shooting a ball outside. Nothing is gonna happen to him. But our main focus is the health of the players and the skiers. So you have to be sometimes tough on them, but also very supportive, help them think positively, and rewire their brain to really be so that they like the sport. The moment you stop loving the sport you're doing, you can never do it again.
Mm, that's interesting. Do you have any example of like where you saw a kid stopped loving the sports and yeah, how do you rewire the
Yeah.
love of the sport?
Look, I can see it from a different way. You have lots of kids that go and do the sports just because the parents want them to do the sport. And you can see no matter how hard, how talented they are, or how hard you like put focus on them, or how much you want them to grow, if they don't want to grow, you will always see that like they are not putting the effort. And if you don't put the effort, like it's always effort and hard work, it beats the talent. So
Mm,
it doesn't matter. And you see lots of things like happening. Like if the kid doesn't want to ski, if he doesn't want to play football, he doesn't want to play basketball, it's gonna be very hard on him to continue in this career.
mm. When you had this experience as an athlete and then as a coach, what would you say, which kind of coaching style you developed, seeing your coach as a military and
Yeah.
understand, oh, maybe it's not so good?
Like, for me, I like to be kind of okay. I show that I'm a coach, I'm an adult and stuff like that with the kids, but also like I'm there with them to have fun. Like the more we have fun, the more they are gonna listen to me, the more they are willing to take some exercises and take tasks from me, and they will do much better. So for me, sometimes I am tough, but most of the time I'm joking with the kids, but letting them also at the same time work. And like this is my style of coaching.
Mm. What would you say was one of the biggest lesson as a athlete, as a skier you learned from for yourself?
Oh, bro, always think positive. Like I don't know, don't take anything personal and be coachable. Because I like the coaches might be tough, but at the end of the day, they only want you to grow and be better. So if you take everything very personal and you take it to grave, you're gonna do lots of overthinking, and that's gonna affect the way you perform. So always think positive, try to find a way to think positive, rewire, reset your brain, and don't really think about take anything personal. Because honestly, the things I learned most is how to deal with coaches, because my coach was really tough. Yeah.
Mm. Do you have any kind of example where you felt like, okay, this guy is military?
Oh yeah. It was 2014. I remember this very well. There was no ski season in Lebanon. There was not lots of snow. So the ski slopes didn't open only for like 1 week or one weekend. I remember I was 2014, I was 12. Not even 12, like 11. Okay. So we go there. We have our skis on our back, our poles here, walking up the slopes and skiing down, walking up the slopes and skiing down, bro, every day. And I was 11 years old, man. That was tough. Yeah. But I always appreciate him, because if he didn't do all of this, I wouldn't be here right now, I
Mm,
think.
yeah, I think it's also like going in the discomfort to achieving something greater.
Yeah,
Because if you have somebody who pushes you to being in the discomfort and
yeah,
staying there and saying like, okay, I'm fine, like I'm not that, and that's what you grow, where you really grow.
exactly. I always say it's not only about stepping out of the comfort zone, but expanding your comfort zone. Like if you just go out of your comfort zone, you just want to run back to your comfort zone afterwards. Maybe you go out of your comfort zone for a week, for a month, for a year. Afterwards, you're gonna run back. But the moment you start expanding this comfort zone, this is where you really grow, I think.
Mm, that's very interesting concept, like because most of the people say go out of your comfort zone, but
Yeah.
you're right. Can you deep down into this concept how you can expand your comfort zone instead of just going out and coming back?
Yeah, like I think like for example, this is your comfort zone here. And like for example, let's say you wanna go out of it like in your sports or anything like that. Don't like take very big steps and try to jump out of your comfort zone. Just take small steps and get comfortable with it. And then when you're
Mm,
comfortable with it, take another step, and then take another step, and then take another step. And I think this is how everything went well with me, going from an athlete to a coach, and then leaving my country to go abroad and doing my master's degree, and now going back in and like expanding all of my how do you say, not only my comfort zone, but expanding my relationships with people and my connections and stuff like that.
mm, yeah, well said. Like as you mentioned right now, after your career as a skier and coach, you went abroad. How was like this step for you? Went abroad, going to Madrid at Real Madrid. Um, like you did your sports psychology masters there. How was it for you? Like, okay, I'm doing this step from Lebanon.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Like the thing is, it happened so spontaneously. I finished my bachelor's degree in Lebanon in pre-med. I did my MCAT exams. I went into med school and I thought like, no, this is not the thing for me. And like since I was young, I really wanted to do something related to sports. And I always wanted to give back for my community here back in Lebanon, the athletes in Lebanon, because I know because of myself being an athlete and being a coach, I just know how much people struggle here in Lebanon, you know? So I was like, I need to find something to do. So I honestly was going into masters here in Lebanon in it's called neuroscience, and then I wanted to specialize neuroscience in sports. And then like I'm a big Real Madrid fan, and I always have them on all my platforms on social media. And then I was like, okay, let's apply. And I apply very late, like May or June, and then I get accepted. And then like one day after another, everything went well, and I just went to Madrid. It was at first tough, but everything was fine. It was really amazing. And it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What would you say, like, what are the big difference, like being an athlete and coach in Lebanon, seeing the environment in Europe, like at
Yeah.
one of the biggest club in the world,
Yeah.
where where are the biggest difference in these two worlds?
Yeah. Like in Lebanon, it's kind of tough, you know. Um, like people and kids, they grew up in thinking about economic crisis and wars and stuff like that, and still like parents, they are afraid of devoting the kids' career to sports, you know. Also, our schools, we don't have that well infrastructure. Only very good schools in Lebanon offer like student athlete ways to learn and grow and good infrastructure for sports. And then like you, if you also look at it, like not all parents are willing to take that much time or invest that much money in kids. And then also clubs, not all clubs, not very much clubs have money also to invest in young talents and scouting players in Lebanon, you know.
Mm,
So it's kind of tough. And then also the moment you go into your sport, if you're an athlete, youth one or professional one or just an adult into the sports, you also have lots of things to think about, you know, like it's not only your sport, it's your school, like the work you have to do, how much money you have to invest, and like it's a lot. But you understand. Going into Spain, you see the governments, the schools, the universities, they put lots of effort, money, and like they devote a lot for sports and for athletes. In Lebanon, it's kind of different. It's getting better. Lebanon is getting better in different sports, lots of sports, but it still needs some time. So that's why I'm really happy, like I'm giving back here.
mm. Okay, I got it. I can understand that it's also a tough situation because, as you mentioned, if you have like war or like some kind of yeah internal pressure, and how would you say like growing up like as a skier, as a professional athlete in this environment, would you say it makes you tough because you're living always in this environment?
Like it makes you tough, but it's sometimes you grow up learning to keep everything inside and swallowing the sad things and the bad things, you know. Uh, so working with athletes in Lebanon, it's it's kind the first step to do is always like to let them talk out and then understand that it's okay to talk it out. So yeah, it's tough, but it makes you also tough, mentally tough in some ways. Like it helps, but it helps some in a toxic way, I think, you know?
Mm. You mentioned right now to allowing the athletes to talk about it.
Yeah.
And in my experience, I see it a lot that athletes are like they have to be tough and
Yeah.
they can't have any problems or because they
Yeah.
are professional athlete. How did you like develop an environment where the athlete feels like, okay, that's okay to talk?
Like, you know, honestly, sharing a bit of my experience. Like, I'm not just a sports psychologist coming from Europe, just telling kids, okay, you have to open up. It's confidential. Just talk to me. Like, I grew up the same way they grew up. Like, I was an athlete. I went professional. I went into coaching also, so I know coaching, and I did my master's into this. So sharing a bit about my experience, letting them know that it's okay to talk it out, and like for me, if I was able to have someone to talk to about all of my problems, I think I would have been much better than that. So I think sharing a bit of your experience with those kids, especially youth players, it's gonna be much better for them, and it creates like some kind of a safe zone for them to talk.
Mm, yeah, that's that's interesting. What was one of the biggest learning for you in Real Madrid?
Bro, lots of things. Um, like I think like some kind of building your routines and your habits so that, okay, I'll do it in an easier way to say. Let's say you need to drink 3 liters of water every day, okay?
Mm,
Instead of every 15 minutes going, having a small cup, going there, drinking the cup, and knowing that you have to drink like 10 cups to
mm,
drink our 3 liters. You'll just get a big bottle and then drink. So that way you're having less stress on your mind. So
mm,
in my mind, creating some kind of morning habits, late night habits, some habits in the day, some kinds of routines, being somehow dedicated for your life and setting the real goals you want to go to, it makes it much easier for you, not only in your sports, but in your life. The more organized you are in some ways, I don't really like being organized in everything. I like being spontaneous, I like being creative, but in some things, like having less stress on your mind, and I think the best way to do that is set your goals and create some kind of habits and routines. So, and I honestly
mm,
learned that being there.
mm. Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful because I always say also because if as you say, if you have routines, you are not spending so much energy on deciding because they are
Exactly.
already there. You know,
Exactly.
it's not something I have to decide to do it. No, I'm doing it because it's just there and it's the part of my life.
I remember something one of our teachers said to us, the most important thing in life is where you put your attention. Like where you
Mm,
put your attention, if how much you spend energy on your attention. So if you're putting attention everywhere in the world, just spilling it there, you're losing lots of energy of your daily energy that you have. But if you know where your attention is going and you know exactly where to focus and other things, you have your habits and your daily routines, you're gonna have more energy towards this goal you have.
yeah, that's powerful. I
Yeah,
remember also the
yeah,
this attention thing,
yeah,
and that's true because if you look, we all say like, yeah, family is important.
yeah,
Yeah, my sport is important, my health is important. But as you say, if my attention is on something else, then
yeah.
it's not important. I'm not
Yeah,
working on that.
exactly. It
Yeah.
depends where you put your attention. This is what is important to you.
Mm. Going back like from Real Madrid and then going back to Lebanon. What has changed for you from the thinking part and also like maybe from the coaching part? Because now you are pursuing the career as a sports psychologist in Lebanon, maybe one of the only sports psychologists there.
Yeah.
And yeah, how is it for you now?
Like first, it's always tough to include sports psychology somewhere, you know? It's still very new, as you said, like I'm one of the very few here in Lebanon. It's very new, and you have to make, if you're working with youth athletes or you're working with athletes, professional ones, you have to explain what is sports psychology, you know? So this first step is kind of tough so that everyone knows what is sports psychology. Like it's tough for them to understand that sports psychology is not clinical psychology. You don't have mental, you're not mentally ill to be here. I'm just here to help you perform in a better way if you want. And for me, like being there and coming back to Lebanon, it helped me a lot. I'm much more organized. I know what to do in my life. And also, like, what makes me the most happy is that honestly, now I'm feeling that I'm giving back to the community I want to give back to
Mm.
skiers, footballers, basketball players, all the youth athletes that I'm being able to help, also the other professional athletes. It's tough to start, but slowly but surely, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like also like your passion to giving back the community where you are coming from, because if your source is like this kind of passion,
Yeah.
it's it's like it's not external, it's like deep
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
you, and
I
you
have
will
this motivation. I wake up every day with this motivation. You know, I don't feel like I'm going to do my job. I'm feeling like I'm just with some friends, just trying to help them in some way.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing because I think also as a sports psychologist, if your approach and your motivation comes inside you, the player feels it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and
Yeah.
that's a big difference because as you were saying like before, when athletes don't want to do their sports, it's very hard that they
Yeah.
will keep up. And it's like the
The
same as
same.
a sports
It's the same.
psychologist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you see, based on you were saying that Lebanon is developing, and before you mentioned off the podcast about the Excellence Center of the
Yeah.
UEFA, how do you see the future for Lebanon and especially also sports psychologists in Lebanon?
Um, I think it's a very growing field. Like coming here to Lebanon, I was, how do you say, like I was surprised knowing that there are lots of people and that are interested in including this in Lebanon. But you always have to work hard to get there. And in sports, like everyone knows that the only good sport, the best sport in Lebanon is basketball. And basketball is growing a lot in Lebanon. We are getting lots of players, and like our league is getting much better and stuff like that. But in other sports, like football, it's now starting to take the attention because we don't have very good infrastructures, we don't have very good stadiums, and then we didn't have the best academies. But right now, we see lots of people, especially this center of excellence I was telling you about, like really devoting themselves to football because, like, these people creating these programs are people like me. They used to
Mm,
be football players, you know, and then they are like, okay, it was hard for me to do it in Lebanon. I'm here to do it for these kids, you know. So that person, he was a professional football player in Lebanon. He went abroad. It was hard for him and he couldn't continue. So he came back to Lebanon and created this center of excellence, you know. And
mm,
then you have lots of people now also looking for like the strength and conditioning part, the nutrition part, and now me also sports psychology and other sports psychologists. Like it's starting to develop in Lebanon. I think there's a good future, but you have to sacrifice in some ways and try like to work no matter what, you know?
mm. Okay. That sounds like it needs time, but it
Yeah.
is on the good way.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's kind of going on the good way, like to the right destination, but like
Yeah.
this, you know?
Let's say the Lebanon way.
Yeah, the Lebanese way. Yeah. Yeah, the Lebanese
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Then one like the last question I have for you is if you look back your whole career, your whole experience, What
Yeah.
was the best advice you ever received?
Oh, oh, bro. That's one my coach always used to tell me. In skiing, before you start your competition, um, like the ski race is like you have poles, you have to go around the poles going down. So you do it once, like Formula One, you just do one formation lap. Okay, so you go down and then you go up, and then you're with your coach wearing the bib, wearing the clothes, and waiting for your turn, you know? So there's something my coach always used to tell me when I was there. Like he used to see me sometimes uncomfortable, like under lots of pressure, and he always used to tell me, like, enjoy this, because for him, he used to tell me that he was a professional skier. He went to Europe and several races in Europe. He used to be second. First, he won gold in Europe, which is something very rare to have in Lebanon. And he always used to tell me, like, just enjoy the pressure and focus on what's next to you, like just find a way to forget everything about, enjoy the pressure. You don't know how long you're going to be doing this. And then exactly, like, I couldn't compete after 18 years old because of my injuries, and then how, like, the structure in Lebanon and stuff like that, but like just enjoy the pressure, focus on what's next, don't overthink anything to the future, don't think about anything in the past, just live in the present and enjoy the pressure.